Once upon a time in a faraway land, there was a little girl who loved to bake. She would wake up early in the morning before the sun had even thought about rising, and she would start baking, and her specialty was gingerbread men. Oh, how she loved to make gingerbread men. One day she was making a batch of gingerbread men when she added a little too much flour to the dough. Now normally this would have been a disaster, but this time it turned out to be a lucky mistake, because the extra flour made the gingerbread men stronger than ever. So strong, in fact, that once they were baked and cooled off, they started to march right off the cooling rack and into the forest. The girl watched in amazement as her gingerbread men marched into the forest. They were led by a gingerbread man with a candy cane sword. He was brave and noble, and he wasn't going to let anything stop him from protecting his fellow gingerbread men. Now you're probably wondering what could possibly stop a brave gingerbread man from protecting his fellow gingerbread men, right? Well, it just so happens that a big bad wolf was living in that forest and he was hungry. In fact, he was so hungry that he was willing to eat anything that moved, especially if it tasted good. And as the gingerbread men marched through the forest, the smell of their delicious gingerbread wafting behind them like a trail of breadcrumbs. The big bad wolf smelled them and started following their scent. Soon he was right behind them, and he opened his big bad mouth, and he let out a huge wolf whistle. The gingerbread men stopped marching, and they turned around, and they saw the big bad wolf. The wolf was so big and so scary that the gingerbread men were terrified. But the gingerbread man with the candy cane sword was ungone. Nah, let a big bad wolf scare his friends. So he stood in front of them, and he raised his sword, and he shouted, "Stop right there, you big bad wolf, or I'll cut your head off." The wolf laughed. He thought it was so funny that a little gingerbread man was threatening him. But then again, he was a little tired of eating regular old deer and rabbits. He was in the mood for something different, something more exciting. And these gingerbread men looked really exciting. So the wolf swallowed his laughter and he said, "You want to cut my head off? Okay, let's see if you can." And with that, the battle began. The wolf lunged at the gingerbread man, but the gingerbread man with the candy cane sword was ready for him. He dodged the wolf's snapping jaws, and he slashed at the wolf's nose with his sword. The wolf howled in pain and backed away from the gingerbread men. He wasn't expecting them to be so strong and so brave, but the gingerbread man with the sword just kept coming at him, and soon the wolf was defeated. The gingerbread men cheered, and they all lived happily ever after,